No superstardom has lasted this long. What really explains the Rajini phenomena, the longevity of the actor? Lata Srinivasan, would you like to weigh in?
So, and absolutely, the Rajni phenomenon, I think, is unparalleled. And it's something that is a celebration not just for Tamil cinema, but Indian cinema itself. From a humble nobody, he has become the superstar who commands a mass fan following, and they're all fanatics. They're not even fans, they call themselves Rajni fanatics. And every film of his is a celebration not just in Tamil Nadu, but now it's become a global phenomenon, especially as you can see with Kohli.
Narayan Madhavan, you know, what, 5 decades, 50 years, and to be relevant in each decade, to speak to a viewer, a fan 50 years ago, exactly the way he speaks to a fan 50 years hence.
Yeah, I think it's important that Rajnikanth gave the word swag. You know, he lived the swag before the word swag became hip and fashionable for millennials or Gen Zers. And the core values that define this screen persona is style, dignity, and self-respect, with a sense of, masculinity that wasn't really toxic but was macho in its own way. So that kind of appealed to both women and men. And there was always some humor and vulnerability in his characters, which, unlike the angry young man represented by Amitabh Bachchan or the romantic hero represented by Shah Rukh Khan, he stood in the middle, straddling the romantic and the angry with some panache, as if the word was invented for him. And interestingly, I would like to point out for the benefit of everybody that his own favorite movie, Baba, which he produced and acted, failed in the box office because what he played on screen was not himself. You know, Shah Rukh Khan once famously said, "I am not Shah Rukh Khan, but I work for Shah Rukh Khan," because there was this well-constructed screen image. And you have actors like Suresh Krishna, K.S. Ravi Kumar, and they actually molded this style phenomenon into a script and used razzmatazz and production techniques that made it all come out well. So that intrinsic style, which was discovered by K. Balachandran in the 70s, was beautifully developed by subsequent directors, as if Rajnikanth was not an actor or a superstar, but an industry or some sort of a religion in itself. That's what makes Rajnikanth special, I think. Most important of all,
right? Yes, sir. Make your
sense
point.
of dignity which he carried.
K. Hariharan, would you want to weigh in on this? Because always, you know, the connect with the masses that has gone on now for 50 years, 5 decades, there's something very, very particular and peculiar about Rajinikanth stardom.
Yeah. See, to understand Rajinikanth as a phenomenon, you have to go back to 1975, where there is a serious change in Tamil politics. And I see him as a resonance of that period, where the erstwhile heroes, which is Shivaji Ganesan and M.G. Ramachandran, they kind of disappear to give place to Kamal Hassan and Rajinikanth. So Rajinikanth is actually a product of an enormous counterculture beginning in Tamil Nadu. And what he introduces meaning the movement. I don't think he was conscious of it. He introduces the idea of speaking in colloquial Tamil, doing everything on screen, which MGR would never do. So he's actually a direct antithesis to M.G. Ramachandran. He would be, he would use foul language, he would be smoking, he'd be drinking, and he would be brash with women. All that was seen as a very important reaction to the counterculture that was coming up in 1975, where the DMK splits into the ADMK. And if we don't understand that background, we will never be able to understand his phenomenon. Because as we all know him, I have known him personally, he never claims to be a great actor, understanding actor, characters and all that. He just says, I am what I am. I am on the screen as what I look like. And I just be the perfect director's actor. He was the perfect foil. He doesn't ever say that I like to think about my roles and develop it in very conscious ways. And he would always say, that is Kamal Hassan's job, not my job. I am just the ordinary man. And this counterculture is what appealed to the new population coming up in 1975. And they are the first product of the post-independence generation. Those who are born out of the old Periyar syndrome of the DK party. And he introduces a new challenge to Tamil audiences, and the Tamil audiences loved it because he presented a counterculture which they were always waiting for. But the big betrayal happened between these two parties when the DMK and the ADMK split. According to me, it is a total betrayal of the so-called Tamil people believe that the Dravidian phenomenon is a permanent phenomenon.
Well, that's really interesting with what you pointed out. But Lata Srinivasan, I want to, pull you in and taking off from what Mr. Hariharan left us with. Initial years, working with Kamal Haasan, the more a mass-based star, while Kamal Haasan a little more experimental. And then the journey to be with the one always, relatable, somebody you connect with, the cause of the poor, and then becoming this mass phenomena.
What Mr. Hariharan said, though it might have been born out of politics when it was a counterculture, Rajnikanth, interestingly, was seen more in negative roles early on in his career. And he's perhaps the only villain that I can say who has become a superstar till now, because somebody who's had that kind of a career trajectory where he didn't consciously think of taking up roles in his early years. But you can see that career change happening slowly with time, where he becomes, similar to what an MGR does. He becomes a do-gooder. He, wants to be part of the masses, wants to make movies for the masses, wants to be seen as somebody who, is one of them. And you see a whole host of films like, Velekaran and Annamalai and Basha, where he is an auto driver, he's a servant in somebody's house. He becomes one of the ordinary people. And I think that was a very conscious change. And director Suresh Krishna, who did many of those films at that time, I think they wanted to ensure that his mass appeal went beyond how it had started in the early years. And of course, director Shankar came in and he became modern Rajnikanth. Rajnikanth was the young millennials. So every director who has come into Rajini's career has consciously, tried to craft it in such a way that it appeals to the generation of today and also stays rooted with the masses. I think that's very important as far as Rajnikanth is concerned.
Well, Mr. Madhavan, would you want to come in? The angry man of Tamil cinema, always reflection of the mood of society, the fighter for justice, has all embalmed him into the person that he is today in terms of what you see on screen?
Yes, but it's very important to understand that Rajnikanth managed to sublimate the anger with a sense of style and humor which you could not find in the typical Amitabh earlier movies. Maybe you found it later in a Shahenshah.
No, the punchlines, the dialogues.
Even Rajnikanth. Yeah, dialogue. There was a full industry script writers working for him. I have translated a Tamil novel on the Tamil industry by writer Sujata, who wrote script for him. And there is a certain science fiction element in Robo. There is a modernity, as Lata pointed out. But one important point I want to make is that his name Rajnikanth was given by director Balachandar from Shivaji Rao because Rajni means dark. He's a dark-skinned man. At the same time, Kant means magnetic. So Balachandar could spot the fact that there was a magnetism to his darkness, which actually a lot of masses were able to identify with. Look, I'm only an ordinary man, but I want to have that kind of magnetism, and he represents my aspirational iconographic personality. And that is what helps us decode Rajnikanth, that he's post-Dravidian, as Dr. Hariharan pointed out, but in a way which is inclusive of that old assertion of identity, along with a sense of modernity. In that sense, he represents today's Tamil Nadu. High economic growth, globalized engineering and IT infrastructure, and yet rootedness in a certain way. That is Rajni for you.
K. Hariharan, from the phenomena on screen to the politician that never quite happened.
Yeah, I think that was, I think he learned it very well, that he is very important. He is not an orator. He is incapable of coming on a big platform and giving a single solo lecture. And he always said, I read lines from screenplays. So if you give me an oratory position on a platform, I'll fail. And I think he was very conscious of that if he ever stood for election, it would be a disaster. He would have been a disaster, So he is not a solo person. He is driven by the film industry. He is driven by the scripts that are written for him. He hardly interferes in the screenplays and how it should be written. So he gives full vent. Unlike other actors who like to kind of stage it, he just gives us what he told me once, that I have just gimmicks. I have some few gimmicks in life. It's like a cards playing by a sharp cardsman. I just do that, and the rest is there by the audience. And I am 100% sure that, and convincingly can say that he is a phenomenon of the audience, not as done by himself. So, for example, when he split from Kamal Hassan earlier on, it was a planned move. It was not a split by any acrimony. It was very clear that Kamal Hassan told Rajinikanth that if you keep acting with me, you'll always be the villain, and you'll always be short-lived. Why don't we split from here? And I must tell you a small insight here for audiences, that they took a candid decision that every time a producer comes to Kamal Hassan, he will tell him that your next film should be made with Rajnikanth. And every time a producer came to Rajnikanth, he would tell him that your next film should be made by Kamal Hassan. So, between 75 and 85, these guys did 100 films each. I mean, this is pure management strategy, which I think others should learn from.
That's quite a politician.
Absolutely. He's a want to be a politician. He is influencing Tamil politics from behind on the screen. He doesn't have to be a politician to do that.
I've run out of time, and it's a pity because I think a lot of people would have liked this conversation to go on for more, and I can safely say it's my most favorite, if I could say, a debate or a conversation I've had all week on News Today. And thank you, all three of you, for joining me.
Pleasure.